And now we have my personal favorite segment I do often. We're gonna do another Libyan Civil War report. If you're new to the show, I'm going to give a brief overview, get you caught up on the Libyan Civil War. And since this is something I do talk about a lot, I do want to emphasize the impacts, because I do think this is one of the most geopolitically, maybe not interesting, but one of the most geopolitically implicated. It's one of the most important geopolitical events going on right now. Let me put it that way. It's up there with like the Syrian Civil War, I suppose, the conflicts with China, Hong Kong, and Taiwan. Those rank up there too, but this just does not get a lot of reporting. So let me get into it. There's two factions in the Libyan Civil War. The GNA, which is the UN-recognized government. The GNA, Government of National Accord, is supported by Turkey primarily. Then there's the Libyan National Army, also the LNA, which is led by Khalifa Haftar. And a lot of times I will just refer to them as Haftar's army or something like that, because GNA, LNA, those are all pretty similar sounding. The GNA is primarily supported by Turkey. The LNA primarily supported by Egypt, but the LNA also gets they get diplomatic support from Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and they've gotten some military support from Russian mercenaries. There are a lot more parties involved in this thing. It's pretty messy. So, a few weeks ago, the GNA recaptured the Al-Watiya Air Base, a hugely important military base. It's both an important facility as well as being strategically located. So the GNA took Al-Watiya, began pushing towards Sirte, a city in central Libya, which is, that's advancing right towards the LNA territory. As they began advancing on Sirte, Egypt made a military threat against the GNA that if they advanced any closer, they would use military force. So, where we last left off, Egypt was threatening to join the war and support the LNA and Haftar, and what that means is Turkey and Egypt are facing an imminent proxy war using Libya to better position themselves in the Middle East. Meanwhile, there are many different countries supporting different sides of the war for different reasons. The GNA is not only supported by Turkey, but, has at least the symbolic support from the UN, as well as some minor support from Italy, etc. I mean, really, if you look at the Wikipedia page for the Libyan Civil War, the second Libyan Civil War started 2014, the countries supporting which side truly seem random as hell. Like, France supports Haftar and the LNA. Italy supports the GNA. And that's only one example. Some of these you're like, what the hell? So, here are the most recent developments.
What's the buzz? Tell me what's happening.
France, like I said, kind of wants the LNA to win the Civil War. But they're not involved in the war. If anything, it kind of seems like their support of the LNA is more of a grievance with Turkey than anything. For example, France has withdrawn from a NATO military operation where they patrol the seas. They did this because France claims Turkey broke a UN embargo and was transporting weapons to Libya. Turkey vehemently denied this and said that it was humanitarian aid that they were transporting. I mean, I kind of doubt it. I'm sure there were weapons in there, but who knows? The conflict, so the Libyan Civil War, and this conflict between France and Turkey overlaps heavily with Turkey's current claims to the Mediterranean Sea. Turkey is trying to claim the water space around Cyprus, around Syria, different parts of the Mediterranean, and France, Greece, especially, as you'd imagine, those old Greeks with their grudge against Turks are really pissed off about this. But I'm not an expert on this. I just need to put it out there because that fight for the Mediterranean sea space is a looming issue on the broader Libyan Civil War.
Eventually.
And finally, I mentioned the Al-Watiya Air Force Base earlier. This was captured by the GNA a few weeks ago, after being controlled by the LNA for a long time. On July 5th, the LNA, Haftar's forces, backed by Egypt, conducted airstrikes on the airbase attempting to retake it. Meanwhile, Turkey is sending Syrian soldiers to fight for the GNA. The GNA and LNA have now established a new battle line between the cities of Misrata and the aforementioned Sirte. Egypt has repeated their threat, saying that they will engage militarily if the GNA attempts to seize Sirte. This wraps up the Libyan Civil War report for this episode. Not a ton has happened since last episode, but the conflict is still on the verge of boiling over into a full-blown global proxy war. And remember, Libya is in this situation because the Obama administration ruthlessly helped far-right Islamists assassinate the brotherly leader, Colonel Gaddafi, leader of the Libyan people.
Kill them, skin them.